Often when we think of the greatest levels in gaming, we think of the awe-inspiring moments, the high points of the story, or the parts where the game's build-up finally pays off in some way, shape, or form. But sometimes, the game's best moment isn't a big victorious part of the story. Sometimes it's when the rug is pulled right out from under you and hits you in the face with a surprise sucker punch, and in the case of Halo Combat Evolved, I believed its highest point is also its lowest moment. The point when we're introduced to the all-devouring space zombies and everything starts to go to hell in a handbasket faster than Halo 5's rapidly deteriorating plot. So on that note, hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the greatest levels in gaming. Today we'll be talking about 343 Guilty Spark, the beginning of Halo Combat Evolved's turning point and its second half, where everything starts going pear-shaped as the Covenant are swiftly and decisively removed from their position as the main threat of the game, and the all-devouring space monsters, that are obligatory for any long-running science fiction narrative to have, will take their place front and center. It's cramped, it's spooky, and it's just the right length to not overstay its welcome. 343 Guilty Spark is a very lonely level, where you're unfortunately never alone.
Dropship was from this area. That was over 12 hours ago. When you locate Captain Keyes, radio in, and I'll come pick you up.
We begin with us landing down here in the swamplands, and for this video I will be playing with the original graphics. The Halo Anniversary graphics are pretty infamous for completely killing the atmosphere at best and looking like an obnoxious Alienware ad at worst, but I will give credit. The outside swamp is visually a beautiful location and would have been a great scenic vista for a standard level where you fight the Covenant. Shortly after, you'll find a downed Pelican.
Captain Keyes has been captured by hostiles. Dug in at a large structure in a swamp. Get pulled out, please. I will send this message to repeat at intervals. Dropship Victor 933, clear.
That's ominous. Also, another detail you'll very likely notice if you're swapping graphics is the health packs changed from the classic cross to a red H. I'm not 100% sure if this in particular was a change due to Red Cross being very protective of their IP or not, mostly because the original game had the red crosses just fine and it came out in 2001 without any weird revisions or changes, while plenty of games prior to it had changes or removed the red crosses from their imagery to avoid lawsuits. And furthermore, the old graphics of Halo Combat Evolved on PC still have the cross, which leads me to think the remaster decision was just to avoid any possible legal headaches, which is, it's perfectly fine. If someone has a definitive answer, feel free to share in the comments and let me know. I'm kind of curious on that. Either way, we'll traverse the dark and foreboding swamp and come across a few remaining squadrons of grunts and jackals either running scared or in a defensive formation, but they're not facing you. They're preparing to fight something else entirely. Looks like whatever Captain Keyes did, he certainly scared the crap out of the Covenant. Progressing through, you'll see the occasional yellow blip indicating friendlies on your radar, or perhaps some faint movement off in the distance. I guess we have some friends here, but it's odd that they're not really coming to help. Regardless, we have a job to do, so we continue to gun down swaths of enemies in our paths, only to see, hey look, assault rifles, friendly gunfire taking down more Covenant. That's cool. I guess we should go meet up with our friends. But as we enter, there's nothing here. Where are our friends anyways? Heading inside the facility, we're greeted with the elevator that was lowered, but the developers were nice enough to have it automatically raise up to meet us and take us down to the lower levels. How courteous of them. Down on these lower floors, we come across a few grunts and jackals with oddly no elites in sight. I feel like we're not getting all the information here. Also not helped that it seems like this facility hasn't been maintaining their air filter because we've got some really bad mold going on here, and of course it looks worse in the remaster. But the hallway afterwards is just completely covered in blood, with a barricade that didn't seem to do much of anything. Everywhere you go, there's just more and more blood scattered about, some ammo and sometimes powerful weapons, but it's been very light on combat and even lighter on bodies, which is very odd. And then, of course, we're finally given some more concrete information, shall we say.
Stay back! Stay back! You're not turning me into one of those things! I'll blow your brains out! Get away from me! Ah! Ah! Don't touch me, you freaks! I won't be like you, I'll die first! Find your own hiding place, the monsters are everywhere! Play dead! That's what I did! Play dead! Here's the live ones. Oh god, I can still hear them! Monsters! Ah! 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 Just leave me alone! Sorry, Mendoza, Vicente. Oh God, the thing stood for. They're gone! Get it? Gone! They won't get me! Oh God! Oh God, I don't want to be like this. Please no. No.
Whatever the hell's going on here is far from normal, and this place has been absolutely devastated, but we're not going to be given any answers. Only silence. There's no music, and no Cortana to speak with either. Until you finally see one particular room. We get a bit of an overlook, but nothing seems out of the ordinary in there. Of course, right below that room, we also see a hallway with a lot of blood and a door inside the room that we were overlooking. Then, after all this weird silence and ominous build-up, it happens. We're given a chance to see the video playback from Private Wallace A. Jenkins, along with a pretty funny line from Sergeant Johnson.
Governor want to wipe out this particular part of my history? That's fine by me.
Yeah, better it than us.
You ask them real nice next time you see them, Vicente. I'm sure they'll be happy to oblige.
Now, as much as I'd love to play this whole scene in full, it's the better part of 7 minutes long, and one of, if not the longest cutscene in the game. So, to touch upon it, we're seeing the damage done to the Covenant, which happened before the Marines got here, and this is also about the point we lost contact with Captain Keyes during the events of Silent Cartographer. Then, we have the point of no return.
I got a bad feeling about this.
Boy, you always got a bad feeling about something.
Sarge, can you hear me?
What's going on, soldier?
He's got contact. Lots of them. But they're not Covenant. They're just tearing through us. What's the slow? No!
Corporal, do you copy? Over. Mendoza, get your ass back up to second squad's position and find out what the hell is going on.
But-
I don't have time for your lip, soldier. I gave you an order.
Sarge, listen.
What is that?
Where's that coming from, Mendoza?
Everywhere. I don't. There! Mira! Hold still! Hold still!
Let him have it.
Ah!
Sergeant, we're surrounded. God damn it, Jenkins! Fire your weapon!
There are too many,
Don't
Sarge!
even think about it, Marine.
Oh, this is local!
Here, Marine. That's an order.
Jenkins!
And so the scene fades back in, and you're greeted with the blood of all the Marines torn apart by those creatures and their weapons, but no bodies found. You're in the very room where everything went down, and you're not given a chance to hesitate or think either as harsh banging on the door begins. We're greeted by our new primary enemy, the Flood, the all-devouring space parasite mandatory for any ongoing science fiction narrative. At first, they're not too dangerous, just a few little swarmy guys that pop on your energy shield and die in one hit, while also emitting a small AoE explosion when shot that does 1 damage, which will allow for that Flood spawn to pop and destroy other nearby Flood spores. Sorry, you're not that good with your assault rifle. The game is just giving you some serious grace with your shots here. But that grace doesn't last very long at all, as the door we came through bursts open and a ton of those Flood spores known as infection forms, as well as much larger and bulkier foes that somewhat resemble elites but seem to lack energy shields, will start leaping at you and trying to smack you in the face, as well as being able to get back up after being shot and seemingly killed. These mysterious foes that resemble elites can also drop plasma grenades, which definitely doesn't help things. I remember when I had this game as a kid, I never knew about the Flood. Well, kind of. See, I hadn't seen them or played up to the point in the game where they showed up. I actually wasn't really allowed to play it until I was 7, but I had a friend in 2nd grade named Jason who talked about them a time or two in passing, and I guess I just figured they were something fought in Halo 2 since he always mentioned Halo 2 when talking about them, and I never had Halo 2 as a kid. It wasn't until the 3rd grade, playing with my dad, we finally beat Assault at the Control Room. Oh god, that level was tedious. And we got to the swamp I'd seen so many times in the opening movie. But then these creatures showed up, and I instantly pieced it together. These monsters were the Flood, and they scared the ever-loving shit out of me, to the point I had nightmares for a month that one of these things was going to leap out at me and attack me when I was little. But childhood nightmares aside, the game doesn't leave you completely up a creek without a paddle, because after you alert some Flood and doom some jackals to their fate, you're able to pick up a shotgun. And unless you're playing on easy mode, this is the first time you'll see a shotgun outside of the multiplayer. It's an extremely powerful weapon, capable of effortlessly gunning down any Flood form in a single shot on most difficulties, and still being able to score the one shot on Legendary. While the Flood can get back up, they're not likely to do so. And I hope, beyond all hope, that this thing is still the punchy menace in the remake. Unfortunately, though, we get the shotgun right as we find an elevator to take us out of here, making this level end a bit too soon. Or not. This level has layers and follows its own sort of multiple act structure. While the tension building of the swamp gave way to the shock and terror of the new foe, the game isn't done throwing curveballs at you, as we have one last threat from the Flood and their evolution, as we now see them starting to wield weapons with high levels of efficiency and much scrawnier Flood forms that look like humans. And if you hadn't pieced it together, those bulkier creatures were once elites, while these smaller ones, well, they're humans. So, they're not only all-devouring space monsters, but all-devouring space zombies. And while we didn't know it at the time of Combat Evolved coming out, they're a deadly and highly intelligent hive mind, able to expand their knowledge by learning from their hosts, and they're also capable of reasoning, which is even scarier in hindsight. And we've got to make our way out of here with no Cortana to guide us and no waypoints. It's designed to get you lost and get you terrified, and it nails it. Now, that sounds super intimidating, but don't worry, this level is actually very linear, even if it doesn't feel like it. The doors have color-coded markings so you know you're making progress. The correct routes have green lights on their doors, they may or may not be flashing as you progress, and there's not really any dead ends or red herrings designed to trip you up. If you go somewhere that looks like a dead end, it probably just means you're on the lower floor and need to get back up. So, even though it's panic-inducing, it's not really confusing. And I will admit, kid me got lost quite a bit in this game, but my more recent playthroughs have made me realize I have to praise how well this game levels are signposted with subtle but noticeable progress markers for players. There was no need for yellow paint, just good level design and a bit of guiding that's almost invisible from the game developers. Aside from one rather infamous level, but you know what, that'll be the subject of a different video that's not in this series. And you'll know the end is in sight when the quiet and ever distant music begins to grow ever so slightly. Still ominous, but not quite as hopeless as the tracks from before. And when you activate the light bridge, all you have to do is take out a few more flood, and you'll have made your way to safety, escaping this awful place.
This is Echo 419. Chief, is that you? I lost your signal when you disappeared inside the structure. What's going on down there? I'm tracking movement all over the place.
The primary horror aspect has come and gone, and now we have our new objective with a ton of our weapons and ammo as well as a health pack. We need to get ourselves and our men out of here. Well, maybe. Pretty soon, we start getting ambushed by the flood, and at least on normal and heroic, the Marines do actually a pretty good job fighting them off. Their bullet weapons can tear into their different forms. It's a shame we only ever get to see this here, as we don't fight alongside Marines for the rest of Halo Combat Evolved. The Flood are never encountered alongside Marines in Halo 2, and in Halo 3 only a single level, and in that level the Flood spawn with the Marines, and well, that's Floodgate, where the infection forms will one-shot any human character that's not protected by plot armor. So it's kind of a shame, but they put on a really good showing here. The idea is we're supposed to be watching the Marines get torn apart one by one until we get saved by a mysterious benefactor, but something unusual happened this time around when I was recording for this video. Sergeant Johnson was in the group of Marines I saved, and not only did he live to tear apart the Flood, but he managed to save over half a dozen other Marines here as they stuck together and gunned down the flesh abominations until the Sentinels arrived to provide their assistance. I know there's books that give more detailed canon explanations, but this is my personal headcanon of how Sergeant Johnson and Private Chips Dubbo survived the game's offense, because they just did too good a job at killing the Flood here. Normally the level ends after the teammates are torn apart and the Sentinels are damaged enough, but if you last long enough, it will end kind of abruptly as you get whisked away by a mysterious floating ball. A bit of a cliffhanger that leads immediately into the next level without any breaks in activity. And that's going to wrap things up for this episode of Greatest Levels in Gaming. I hope you enjoyed. My current goal is to try and get these to come out roughly one episode a month, but I'm currently a bit behind that trend, so we'll be playing catch up for a little bit, and I don't think you'll mind that much. I know it might be a bit odd that out of our first 4 episodes, 2 of them have been first-person shooters, and as a spoiler, I've got 2 more like that lined up eventually in the works, so you've been warned. That being said, it will not be the case for next episode, or the one after that. See, I've played a ton of different video games throughout my admittedly not very large number of years on this planet, and I want to cover multiple different genres for this series, whether it be platformers, shooters, mech combat games, puzzle games, or what have you. I want this series to be about the best parts of games, and the reasons we replay them and love them so much. These early entries will all be my own personal selections, but if you have your own choices, feel free to let me know in the comments below. I'm open to trying new things and seeing what they've got. But if you enjoyed and want to see more content of varying quality, consider liking, subscribing, and hyping the video, and I'll see you all next time. Until then, take care everyone.